Brian Callahan was a disaster against the Denver Broncos, but his press conference on Monday made him look entirely clueless. I'll tell you what he had to say on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 to use across the app. On today's show, we're going to go over what Brian Callahan had to say at his Monday press conference and why I think it makes him look even worse than he did yesterday. Also, we are going to look at the positives. I've gone through all of the tape. I want to tell you why it's not Cam Ward's fault that the Titans offense looks so bad. Also, there's a lot of positives to take in the other phases of the team that we need to discuss. Before we get into all of it, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed. Stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Titans podcast. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. Obviously, there's a lot to discuss with the season starting now, and I'm going to keep you as up to date, as entertained, as informed as a Tennessee Titans fan could possibly be. But with that being said, we do got to talk about clueless Brian Callahan and his confusing responses on Monday in his press conference. So first and foremost, we have to talk about the biggest controversy of them all, and it's the elbow catch by Alec Manor on the sideline. Would have been a 20-yard gain, would have been an explosive pass play, would have given the Titans a first down late in the game when they absolutely needed to get something going, but Brian Callahan didn't challenge the play. And I think what's most frustrating for me going back through the tape is you could see on the sideline Amani Hooker, not a coach, the Tennessee Titans safety, Amani Hooker, is literally going to the referee and he goes, "That's a catch." And then he points to his elbow and he says his elbow is in and he points at the field. Amani Hooker knew that rule on the field. And not only did the Tennessee Titans head coach not know it, but the guy that the Titans hired to be Brian Callahan's spotter up in the booth, he didn't know it either. And again, that mistake in and of itself is embarrassing. But I thought Brian Callahan embarrassed himself even more on Monday in his press conference. So his initial answer when asked why he didn't challenge that, or yesterday at the press conference, he said that he didn't get another foot in. Well, Brian, if you look at NFL rules, it says that if any body part other than your hands and feet are in bounds, that's a catch. So one butt cheek, one knee, one elbow, one shoulder, any body part other than your hands or your feet is in bounds, it's a catch. And Callahan said, well, he didn't get one foot down with his one elbow. He did not know the rule. And then on Monday at the press conference, he was asked, and he said that he misinterpreted the rule, that's his mistake, that he just misunderstood the rule. And to me, that's an explanation. Hey, I just didn't understand the rule. Now, that's a terrible explanation for an NFL head coach who's getting paid millions and millions of dollars to lead a football organization at the highest level. That's a disgrace. But hey, I didn't know the rule. I should have challenged it. I didn't know the rule. And that's where he started. And they asked, why didn't the guy upstairs tell you to challenge it? Did that guy not know the rule either? And Callie's like, I'm not going to, he didn't want to throw whoever under the bus. He said, I should have known, I should have challenged. All right, cool. Understandable. Not happy about that, but all right, at least you were honest. But then, later, at the end of the press conference, when he was kind of pushed about it again, Brian Callahan said that he did know the rule, that he does know that one elbow means that you're in. But then he said the game was going so fast and things were moving at such a high pace, and I was trying to think of the next play call, and it was a punt. The next play call was a punt. What do you mean you're trying to think of the next play call? What are we talking about here? So it's just insane to me that Brian Callahan starts off by saying, I didn't know the rule, my bad. I misinterpreted it, I misunderstood. And then by the end of the press conference, he's starting to get defensive, and he's like, he said, I've been in this league a long time. I know the rules. I know the rules. Well, clearly you don't. He said at the end, he said, I misspoke yesterday. So did you not know the rule, or did you misspeak? Which one is it? You know what I mean? Like, he said both things and talked out of both sides of his mouth during the press conference. And that, to me, we can talk about how angry that makes us and how frustrated that makes us, but think about the players in the locker room. Amani Hooker, part of a Titans defense that got 4 turnovers and generally made the Broncos offense look awful for most of the game. Amani Hooker, a player on the team, knew that. So for the coach to say, I misinterpreted the rule, I didn't know it, and then change his opinion and say, no, I knew it, just things were moving too fast, that's my fault. How frustrated do you think the players in the locker room have to be by that? Not only on defense for wasting their performance, but the offensive players who desperately needed that play to be a real play for them. See, I want to throw back to my guy Brad Hopkins, the legend, the Titans legend who I do the squad show with. And Brad has said consistently to me when we've talked about Brian Callahan, coaches only get fired if they lose the locker room. Well, when Arden Key is in the locker room saying, we got to score more points. Like, yeah, the defense has to play better, but we got to score more points. We got 4 turnovers. We got to score more points. And when Amani Hooker is on the sideline knowing the rules, and when the head coach is at the press conference talking out of both sides of his mouth and won't take accountability, that is a quick way, that's a turbo button to lose the locker room. Your defensive players don't trust you. All the players on your team don't think that you're prepared. I'm just saying, like, if losing the locker room is what is going to actually get Brian Callahan fired, well, it's only week 1, but he's well on his way. Because there's a lot of players in there, and I hate that everyone's saying it's 1 week, it's 1 week. This is week 19 for Brian Callahan. This ain't week 1, it's week 19. And there are players in the locker room who were here last year. And the incompetence that we saw last year, and then to start the season this way, that is a quick way to lose the locker room and for your players to lose faith in you. So, and let me say this. A lot of you guys are saying fire Brian Callahan now, but well, that's not going to happen. Brian Callahan's not going to get fired anytime soon. I laid it out when the schedule came out, guys. Week 7 at home against the Patriots. If Brian Callahan is 2-4 or looking more like 1-5, and you get beat down by Vrabel's Patriots to go to 1-6, then he's probably fired. The bye week is in week 10, I believe, week 10 or 11. If the Titans go into that 1-8, 2-7 with embarrassing losses, Callahan will be fired. He will be. But remember, as my guy Brad Hopkins, the legend, said, coaches get fired when they lose the locker room. So if this continues, he is going to lose the locker room. And if we're doing a scouting report on Brian Callahan, in my opinion, the thing that he is worst at is motivation and leadership, because his team is not responding to what he's preaching. They preached all season long about the penalties, the discipline. And then the very first opportunity they have, they come out and throw up 13 penalties and have as many penalty yards as they do offensive yards. The players at some point will stop listening to the message if they don't feel the coach can deliver. Now, I don't feel that loss of confidence is going to come within the first month of the season, but it has definitely already started. And I said this before the year when we talked about why the Titans need to get off to a fast start, because the lingering doubt from last year will intensify if the same problems pop up this year. And guess what? Week 1, they're already back. Now, I just want to say this because a lot of you guys are saying to me, well, who should be the next coach? What will the Titans do? I mentioned it on yesterday's show. If the Titans fire Brian Callahan during the season, I think his dad's going to go with him. I think Scott Fuchs, who's the assistant offensive line coach, will take the offensive line gig. Mike McCoy, Titans senior offensive assistant, who's been a head coach in the NFL, he will be the head coach. That way, Nick Holes and Denard Wilson can just stay doing their job. And then at the end of the season, when the Titans go into their process to actually hire a new coach, I haven't done a ton of research on who I think would make sense, but just some names that come to mind. We mentioned John Gruden with the connective tissue with Kansas City and Green Bay and Brinker and Borgonzi, although I think that's much less likely than some other names. I think Mike McCarthy would also be on a list to get a professional Super Bowl winning coach who I thought did pretty good with the Dallas Cowboys in my opinion. I think a guy like Joe Brady, who is in Buffalo right now with Josh Allen as their offensive coordinator, who's been a highly sought after guy, would make sense. I think Cliff Kingsbury, who didn't do great in his first chance with Arizona, although he did go 11-5 and go to the playoffs his first year, but a guy who transformed Jaden Daniels immediately into an all-pro level quarterback and had a great offense that centered on RPO and shotgun. I think that would fit great. And maybe in a second opportunity as a head coach, he'd be more prepared and ready to go. I think those names make a lot of sense. Now, again, don't hold me to the fire on those names. I'm just saying those are the immediate names that pop up. And then Denard Wilson. At some point, Denard Wilson might get an opportunity to interview for the big boy job. I think he would get a chance in the offseason. So, it's just disappointing that we're right back, and it feels like we're right back to where we were before. But there are a couple of things that I don't think are like last year, and it has to start with Cam Ward, who you pop on the tape, Cam Ward looked great. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. This real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while the industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. You need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The Part Finder tool and 3D schematics can save you hours on the job where every detail matters. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing better than being in the stadium. The NFL season is back. You're going to be surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between the wait times, login screens, prices jumping all of a sudden when you go to checkout. It's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast. It's easy. It's backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included. So the price that you see is the price that you pay. I buy all my tickets on Game Time. Football, basketball. I'm going to a Buckeyes game in the shoe this week, and I got my tickets on Game Time. But I've done WNBA, NBA, MLB, concert, comedy. You can find it all on Game Time, and they have the best features in the industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, the promo code is LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Titans fans, fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about Brian Callahan's press conference and why his answer to the Alec Manor challenge situation made me even less confident in him being able to retain the locker room. Talked about some potential options, but again, I don't think that the Brian Callahan firing is going to come anytime soon. With that being said, though, Cam Ward was great in this game. And I know that the dumbest person you know is going to say, he went 12 for 28 with 112 yards, no touchdowns, and a fumble. He was terrible. He had a 7.4 QBR. He was not. Look at the tape. I went through the All-22 on Monday morning. I put out my film breakdown on Cam Ward's best throws on the Tic Tac Titans YouTube channel. Make sure that you go check that out. Guys, if you aren't pairing the Locked On Titans podcast with the Tic Tac Titans YouTube channel to get all of the conversations that need to be had and then all the film study that you need to follow, what are you doing? Those two things together are all a Tennessee Titans fan could ever even need. So make sure that you go check out my Cam Ward film breakdown. But when you see it, you'll see that Cam Ward threw some dots, my friends, some absolute dots. It started on the very first play of the game. He showed us everything that we wanted to see, and he didn't do the things that I was worried about. Now, was he perfect? Absolutely not. Cam Ward was not perfect. There were a couple of throws. He was a little over on that throw to Tyler Lockett. There's a deep ball down the sideline to Alec Manor down the left sideline where Cam threw the ball a little too wide and Alec didn't really have a chance to put a play on it. There are, the throw to Chikakonkwo over the middle on the last drive of the game where it barely hit his fingertips. You could say it hit your hands, you should catch it. Not on that one. That ball wasn't close. It was kind of similar to where Will Levis hit Kyle Phillips in his rookie season against the Steelers. He's trying to force a seam route in on a dagger concept, and he was just a little too far inside. So Cam Ward had his fair share of misses, certainly. But go through the tape. How many passes did Cam Ward throw that were absolutely pinpoint perfect, that were either ruled incompletions because they were on the sideline and the guy couldn't make a play, or because they were drops? The Titans had 5 or 6 drops. So if you add in those 5 or 6 drops, now Cam Ward is 18 for 28. Doesn't look near as bad. You know what I'm saying? So, let me say this too. I was concerned because, again, we've had these conversations. I know that the national media and how the Titans are discussed on the big talk shows and all of that, that doesn't really matter to wins and losses. And there are some of you out there that say, I don't care about all that stuff. I just want to see my team win on Sundays. But I'm sorry, but I do care. I do care whether the Titans get respect. I do care whether the Titans are covered properly. I do care whether people have a good understanding of what's actually going on with the Titans. And let me say this. I'm pleasantly surprised that pretty much all of the national media that I've seen, whether it's Dan Orlovsky on ESPN or it's Colin Cowherd or it's some of the talking heads on Twitter that I like a Sam Monson from Pro Football Focus, or I think he might be with 33rd Team now, whatever. The general consensus out there is, heck, I even talked to Kevin O'Connor about this, who writes for Yahoo about the NBA, one of my favorite NBA content creators. Cam Ward was not the problem. Cam Ward looked awesome, and everybody else let him down. Look at the throw on the sideline to Gunnar Helm, which I still think probably should have been a catch. But they said he bobbled it before he got the second foot down. Whatever. That's a dart on the sideline on a corner route to the sideline. And then he hits Gunnar Helm again on the same exact route on the other side for a completion for a 20-yard gain. He puts a ball down the left-hand sideline, not the one that was a little too far left, but down the left-hand sideline to Alec Manor, and it wasn't like Io did bad or it wasn't a bad throw from Cam. It was a good play by Riley Moss from the Broncos, and it was broken up, but it was a dot. It went right to Alec, right where it needed to be to give him a chance to get it. It just didn't work out. The throws to Calvin Ridley, we talked about it yesterday. Cam Ward's dad is literally in the stands bending over the handrails because he can't believe that Calvin Ridley dropped so many passes. Alec Manor had a slant that he dropped at one point in time. Cam made multiple plays with his legs the very first play of the game. Cam moves up in the pocket, moves out of the way of the defender, goes through a defender, grabbing his shoulder pads, looking like Air McNair, baby, and dumps it off to Tony Pollard for the Titans' biggest play of the game. It was their only explosive play of the game. And then you have the one where he's fallen back into the end zone and he finds Calvin Ridley on 3rd and 13 to get a conversion. He showed us everything. He showed everything you wanted to see. So, I'm just having a hard time taking people serious who say that Cam Ward played poorly or Cam Ward didn't have a good game. Cam Ward played awesome. There were 6, 7 drops. He took 6 sacks. And again, people tried to say it was Cam Ward's fault on a couple of those sacks. I broke down that tape. The sacks were not his fault, especially on the one where the Titans got knocked out of field goal position after the muffed punt. That was not Cam Ward's fault. Brian Callahan ran 2 wheel routes down the sideline and 2 post routes that literally ran into each other over the middle of the field. No one was open, and pressure got there right away. That's not Cam Ward's fault. That's a bad call and bad design by Brian Callahan. And it harkens back to when Kurt Warner broke down the tape of the Titans preseason game and was like, man, these routes are all messed up. Why are they teaching the wide receivers to do this and that? And it goes back to Callahan doesn't know what he's doing. That's the reality. You ran posts and wheels against cover 4, and then the next play, he runs a levels concept that's a zone beater where you, on the right-hand side of the field, you have a short guy, you have an intermediate guy, and Calvin Ridley's your deep guy. It's a zone-beating concept, and the Broncos are in man. Well, I said before the game, the Broncos run 30% cover 1 on 3rd and short to long. From 3rd and 3 to 3rd and 15, the Broncos run 30% cover 1. So why did you think you were getting zone anyway? And then there's nobody open. And Brian Callahan even said, maybe he could have got rid of the ball on the 2nd down sack, but Tony Pollard stayed in to help, and Tony Pollard didn't get out quick enough to Cam Ward to dump the ball off to him. And then on the 3rd one, he basically admitted the pressure was on him too fast from the left-hand side, from his blind side. He couldn't do anything. And why are you running that sort of route combination when you know that you just took a huge sack? Ali Udoh is in the game at right tackle. They didn't help Ali Udoh on either play. Tony Pollard helped on the inside with Cushenberry and score instead of helping the backup offensive tackle who you need to help. It's all very perplexing. And again, I just think it's nuts to blame Cam Ward. And I saw somebody say Cam Ward had a 32% off-target throw rate in week 1, the highest in the NFL. That's like, my guy Justin Mello said, that's like 5 out of 29 throws. So 5 of Cam Ward's throws weren't perfectly on target, and we're going to skew that as he didn't have a good game. Look at all the dots he threw all over the place. Hitting Calvin Ridley on a backside dig, coming off his progressions, and Calvin Ridley drops. You know, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here, because this is the most exciting part of this game is, yeah, a lot of stuff on offense looked terrible, but Cam Ward looked like a guy. And national people who typically would just crap on the Titans because it's easy to do and it's lazy analysis, no, all of these people are looking at it and like, wow, it's so bad on offense outside Cam Ward, I can't even pretend like he played bad. So don't let the dumbest person you know tell you that Cam Ward didn't have a good game. You should be even more excited for Cam Ward after week 1 than you were coming into it. But with that being said, let's stay excited, because the other 2 phases of the ball, defense and special teams, they were great in this game. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff now that the NFL season is here with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel. Number one, I love a same-game parlay. I can add a bunch of different stuff together. I can't lie to you guys. I had a Nick Bonito and a Jonathan Cooper sack parlay because I knew that the Titans' offensive line wouldn't be as good as we hoped going into the year. That cashed. You know what I mean? And my thing is, when you do the same game parlays on FanDuel, they're so much fun to follow because of how visually stunning the app is. It's absolutely fantastic. And not only that, but performance is great too. It's quick, it's easy. It's the best way to add a little bit of energy to every single Sunday. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. Once again, that's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Titans fans, let's continue and cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about Brian Callahan's press conference on Monday and why it was confusing and concerning and all of the other C words that I could possibly think of. Cam Ward, though, was incredible, in my opinion. It wasn't a perfect game, but he showed everything that I wanted to see from him and was really let down by everything around him. But let's talk about some more positive stuff. Let's keep it positive here, folks. The rest of the Titans look pretty dang good compared to last year. You go to the defense. The defense held Bo Nix to 25 for 40, 176 yards, had a touchdown to Cortland Sutton there at the end, which is Brian Callahan's fault. The defense was ready to go to halftime. Forced 2 interceptions. Jeffrey Simmons gets the sack strip fumble. That's 3 turnovers from a Titans defense that could not force turnovers to save their life last year. Denard Wilson emphasized turnovers all year. And unlike Brian Callahan's offense, who couldn't do anything that they emphasized throughout the offseason, the Titans defense came out and stood on business. They said, we're getting more turnovers this year, and that's exactly what they did. The defense played far and away good enough to win this football game. In my opinion, the defense only really gave up 13 points. Brian Callahan gave the Broncos a free touchdown. But regardless of that, I thought the Titans defense did a very good job. They gave up those classic, big runs in the fourth quarter after the offense continues to let them down. And we had these conversations last year. And I know that to some of you, this is unsatisfactory, but I don't really care. If you're on defense, these are human beings. And Arden Key is after the game saying the offense has to convert on third downs. Like, we got to find a way to convert some third downs. The defense knows what's happening. Oh, we'll go back out there again. Man, can we get anything? Like, football is a symbiotic game. You need all 3 phases to work together. If you are a 3-legged animal and one leg just wasn't working, you're going to have a hard time walking. When one leg is broken, you're going to have a hard time getting much done. Now, I don't know a lot of 3-legged animals, but just walk with me on that, all right? You know what I'm saying. But the point is, eventually, these human beings who have emotions and passion and care about what's going on, it isn't maddening. They're not just going out there stone-faced, ready to play up to their overall level. You lose momentum. Momentum is so real. Don't listen to anybody who tells you that momentum is not a real thing in life. Confidence, momentum, all that stuff is so real. And to see the offense do what it did last year and let down the defense early in the season, and then to come out here and for the Titans defense to stand on business and get 3 turnovers and hold the Broncos offense down for the most part throughout most of the game, 3.5 quarters. For that to happen and them get rewarded 0% by their offensive counterpart, any rational, logical human being would be disappointed by that, would come out flat eventually, would be downtrodden, would be defeated by that. And you can say, oh, they're professionals, they get paid, they should go. They're human beings. So I thought the defensive performance, barring the, couple of big runs that they gave up. I mean, J.K. Dobbins had 6 carries for 70 yards, but had 50 yards on 1 run. So that means 5 carries for 20 yards. Okay. You know what I mean? And then, or that's R.J. Harvey. But J.K. Dobbins had 16 carries for 63 yards. That's 3.9 yards a carry. That's under 4 yards per carry. Cortland Sutton had the 22-yard touchdown. But other than that, that's 5 catches for 39 yards. The Titans defense played well in this game. And if you want to be encouraged and you want to be excited about the season going forward still, which look, I'm frustrated with Brian Callahan. I hated what we saw out there from him. But the Titans defense did look improved. And the Titans special teams, if we want to talk about the biggest improvement, the Titans special teams was a weapon in this game. We talked about before the season, not only do the Titans need to not be terrible on special teams, but they need special teams to be an advantage for them. You get a turnover on special teams. Chim DK looks awesome as a returner, including the 71-yard return that set up the Titans for 3 extra points before halftime. 4 returns on kickoff for 144 yards, 36-yard average. Chim DK, 1 punt return, but 12 yards. Not only did he catch the ball, but he made something happen. Joey Sly, 4 for 4 on field goals, 100%. The only points the Titans scored. Hit a 50-yarder as well, right down the pipe. Johnny Hekker, who we had concerns about coming into the season. Averaged 49.4 yards per punt. That's 50 yards. Had a 65-yard punt. Old man Hekker. He downed multiple punts inside the 20 when he had the opportunity. Only 1 punt, what I say was bad from Hekker, where he should have pinned them inside the 20 and it went out of the end zone. The Titans' special teams was way better than the Broncos' special teams. The Titans' defense was just as good, if not better, than the Broncos' defense because they forced turnovers. So, again, I know that everybody's mad. I'm angry too about the game and how it played out. But at the end of the day, Cam Ward looked really good. The defense looked majorly improved. And the special teams was a weapon. And I know that it's not, everybody's favorite to be excited right now, but those 3 things right there make me feel very excited that the Titans can be an improved football team if Brian Callahan doesn't sabotage them throughout the season. But with that being said, that is going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.